We started to fill this, and if you take a peek here, you'll notice that it overshot and actually was continuing to fill, so I turned the machine off. The reason is something is wrong with this button. The manual fill button is on. So manual fill means it's going to continue to fill and overfill. So sometimes the obvious solution to the problem isn't doing all of these steps, but just making sure that that button's off. Here is how you fix the espresso machine when it explodes with water. First thing you do is you look at the sight glass here, and the sight glass, normally the water level, you can kind of see the dark in there, and that's basically where the water usually sits. If you don't see the water at all, it looks like it might even be empty. That actually means this thing is totally full. So what happens is there's a probe inside the boiler that tells the computer when to stop filling the tank. So when that probe gets calcium built on it, it doesn't read the water. So when the water touches the metal, if there's calcium, it's insulating it. So all we have to do is take off the top, turn off the machine, let it cool, make sure that open the steam valves, make sure there's no pressure, because you're going to actually open up the boiler. Take off the top. And then what we're going to be looking at is right here. This is the probe. And it's really important the power is off because all of the wiring in here is live and this is hot. So you just disconnect this wire from the probe, and what I'm going to do is take a wrench, and there's two nuts. The bigger one is the one I'm going to loosen it counterclockwise, take it off, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. So using the crescent wrench from the toolbox under Joel's station, stick it on there, and again I need to go counterclockwise, so I lock it on, tightening the crescent wrench so it's got a nice good grip, and going counterclockwise carefully, and there it goes. So now this stuff can be hot, just be careful, and I can tell you already by the grittiness of unscrewing this, it's got a lot of calcium on it. So now when this pops off, you can see the buildup right there on the probe. That's the stuff we need to clean off. So I'll clean all of this off, get it to look silver and clean again, stick it back in, tighten it down, connect the lead in, and then we'll do a draining procedure, which I'll show you in a second. When you're cleaning the probe, the rough surface, if you were to take a scour pad and scrape it clean, it would leave abrasions all over the metal, and it would just make a really great home for that calcium to stick back again. So I just try to polish it off as best I can, maybe even just get your fingernail involved and get that calcium off. If that doesn't work, just a razor blade real carefully to get it off, but again, you're trying not to scratch up the surface too bad. And so once I get this all the way clean, it's just about putting it back where it was, tightening it down, and we'll be good to drain the tank. Now you can see the probe is all clean and shiny. That's what we like to see. So going back to the boiler, there's this very important copper seal. You want to make sure, just kind of, if there's any residual calcium, just kind of brush it off. We can reuse these copper seals a few times, so it looks like it's still in good shape. Putting the probe back on, and the reason this probe is bent is because that's actually the setting we want it to be at. So when this comes new, it's actually straight up and down, and then once we set the level in the boiler to what you want it to be, so if the probe's lower, it's going to have less water in the boiler. If the probe's up higher, the water's going to be able to fill up higher. And as soon as the water touches the probe, that's what activates and closes the switch and makes it stop filling up. So the bent just ensures that we're not going to mess with any settings here. So you go back to tightening it down. Tighten it by hand always before you use the tool. Grab the crescent wrench, and this is just not, don't try to be crazy strong, but we don't want it to leak either. So we're going clockwise now for tight. Nice and snug. Moving the probe back here and connecting the wire for the probe. So now this is done, the problem's actually taken care of. The last problem is the fact that the boiler is all the way full, And with this machine, there's two boilers. The boiler up front here is for making the espresso, so that's our espresso boiler. The back boiler, which is the one with the problem, is our steam boiler, which to make steam you actually have to have room in the boiler, so the boiler is all the way full. If I were to heat it up, it would just squirt water out of the steam rods. So we're going to have to drain the tank and let the autofill fill it to the appropriate level. So coming back to the sight glass, there's this cool drain screw. So we'll just loosen the drain screw and we'll drain the tank completely and we'll screw back on. And then when we turn the machine on, we'll hear the valve open and we'll hear it fill, and we're going to make sure that it stops at that dark line level, which is the appropriate level. Rolling. Okay, here we go. We're taking the screw off. Just make sure you push forward, twist carefully, and unthread this completely, and you'll notice water will start coming out immediately, and it's hot, so be careful. Eventually. Alright, at this point you can see the water's nearly completely drained out of the tank, and we can go ahead and get ready. This screw needs a little bit of Teflon tape, and you want to make sure that you wrap it in the opposite direction that you thread. So I'm actually, since we tighten clockwise, I'm actually going to wrap this on counterclockwise, if that makes sense. Just about 2 to 3 turns, and then you just hold it, pull it tight, and wrap it. So I'm actually putting it on the opposite direction that I'm threading. And then you're just going to close this, and that's nice and hot. Back up. And don't go crazy tight. You just want to push while you're twisting until you feel it just start to get snug. That should do it. At this point, I'm going to leave the top off, all the covers off, and just make sure everything's working right. So we'll go back to turning the machine on. 2 clicks, 1 click, 2 clicks. Now we'll wait to see if it starts filling. I can hear the pump going, so it sounds like that, and we'll just keep an eye on the sight glass to make sure that eventually water gets in there. And always make sure that you have the water on. If you turn the water off at the machine or something like that, make sure you turn it back on. Water is on, right?
I turned that one off. Is that the same?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
I think that might be.
I had to turn the water on. And here it goes.
So again, we're just looking to make sure that the water hits that dark point and then shuts off. Gets to about 2/3 full.